Wahid Ali, a peer and big Labour donor, was given a number 10 pass. One of Labour's biggest donors, Wahid Ali, was given a security pass to Downing Street, where he was involved in organising an event compounding claims of cronyism in the new government. Lord Ali, a Labour peer and media entrepreneur who was involved in creating the TV show Survivor, helped organise a post-election event in the garden of number 10 to thank donors and volunteers after the election on July the 4th. How nice. Ali was given a temporary pass after the general election last month and handed it back several weeks ago, according to a spokesperson for the Prime Minister, who said the pass was due to expire at the end of August. Now, this isn't the only case of access for Labour donors. Ian Caulfield gave £20,000 over 10 years, with 5,000 of that going directly to Rachel Reeves, who has appointed a civil servant who has now resigned. Ian Caulfield resigns as official to Rachel Reeves as ministers deny giving preferential treatment to funders. Ian Caulfield has resigned as an official to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, the Sunday Times reported this weekend, becoming an unpaid advisor instead after days of controversy over his role. Caulfield, who has donated more than 20 grand to Labour politicians in the last 10 years, including 5 grand to Reeves, was appointed in July as a temporary director to the Treasury. The appointment caused further controversy when it emerged the civil service watchdog had not been told of his donations history. Now, they did say that they wanted to clean up politics. I mean, they attacked the Tories on being sleaze. And usually Liberals attack the Tories on the same thing. They don't necessarily attack them on policy, but on corruption. But yeah, it's been, 7 or 8 weeks. It didn't take long. I mean, Labour are bringing in donors to number 10. I mean, however briefly, I think that's sleazy. And it's just the same as usual. And obviously we've got the Ian Caulfield as well, given 20 grand to the Labour Party, and he was given a civil service job. I mean, these people, they're not elected. It's simply cash for access. Wahid Ali gave 500 grand to the party. So, Callum, aren't the adults supposed to be back in the room?
Well, I thought they were initially, and said so unironically to your dismay. I know, really embarrassing. I apologise. Look, with the access all areas thing, I think there's always a degree of that in politics. But when Labour have spent so long claiming to be the party that's against all that's going to end sleaze, that's going to end this, helping out your mates before you help out the country, and we're seeing them do the same stuff. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's just kind of like, well, like, where's the difference between you and the other guys? And what's the benefit of doing this? Like, what are they trying to do? Like, I don't understand it politically. It doesn't make any sense. Like, with them not keeping promises, they're behaving in a way that we saw, Boris Johnson's government behave, Sunak's government behave, Theresa May and Cameron's government behave, and they're just doing the same thing. But yeah, are the adults back in the room? Well, I thought they were. I think politics. I think politics in the UK has gotten so bad recently that actually we've kind of grown so used to the sleaze and the corruption and the bad behaviour and MPs getting, investigated for all sorts of horrific things, that it's just become normal. So when we suddenly have a party that maybe doesn't quite have as many MPs under investigation for sexual assault or rape, or, we've got a party that doesn't quite have as many access all area passes going out as the last one, even though they're still doing it. For a lot of people, we can look at it and say, well, all right, they are doing it, but at least they're not as bad as the other guys. But that bar has been set so flipping low, when in reality, we shouldn't be seeing any of this full stop.
I mean, you did demonstrate how low the bar is. I mean, it's like, oh, well, they're not sexually abusing people, so I guess that's all right. And
also, they kind of are.
That's how bad a politics is. But what's frustrating is the Liberals won't attack Labour on this, right? They were saying, I mean, Boris Johnson did this right now as the Tories. My God, the liberal media, and I say liberal media because there is a kind of liberal media, not left wing, but liberal media, I would say, the James O'Briens of the world, shall I say, they would absolutely destroy the Tories on something like this, right? But when it's the Labour Party, it seems to be silence. And it kind of reminds me of, last week there was story after story about, Labour taking union funding. And you had the media and you had people like Richard Tice saying, well, this is corruption because they're taking money from unions, even though the party was, created by unions. But no one said anything about the billionaire donors joining the party.
In defense of James O'Brien, mind on that point that you've just raised specifically, I did hear him the other day talking about if you replace the word union with working people, whether or not the headlines have the same ring to them. So give him that, because I think on that whole argument about unions paying them, it's like, well, yeah, but it is working people that fund the unions.
It's way less unions than it was before.
It's actually really, really democratic. If unions are funding the Labour Party, that's really democratic because they're funded by, you and me. If you're a member of the union, you should be.
Well, I mean, there's no justice described it as the cleanest money in politics, because it is. I mean, you do elect your leaders in that circumstance. It is workers with their own money.
Yeah. Sorry, Sneakcret, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. I think I interrupted you. I think this is just how we chat as a group anyway.
How British. Very sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I just apologise.
Is that the Spider-Man meme again? But you're just, we're interrupting each other.
I think the thing is, like, it kind of reminds me of, you've seen in the thick of it where they have the whole inquiry about the leaks, like stuff being leaked out of Parliament. And it basically comes down to the idea of like, none of us are going to attack each other on this because we're all doing it. Labour, like ages ago, hit the point where they were getting way more donation, like money from individual donors, right? And like the whole Green Prosperity Plan happened after there was a meeting between Kerry McCarthy and reps from the oil and gas industry. But we also know that the oil and gas industry massively funds all the parties. The Reform the most, it's like 98% of Reform's funding. But it's kind of a game of, they can't point the finger at each other on dirty money in the way that they used to, because they'll Spider-Man themselves. Like, you can't call out, well, you're having backdoor meetings with lobbyists. Everybody has to avoid talking about that. And I do think, as much as there have been discussions of Tory sleaze, the wording of those kind of accusations towards the Tories from the Labour Party has always been quite specific. Like, I think things like the discussion of Rishi Sunak burning the 4 billion in PPE, the issue wasn't the private contract with someone who was completely inefficient. The issue was that they wasted money. Like, oh, you were just not managing the private contract properly, because they can't say you're doing dodgy deals with people behind closed doors because they're also doing it. So I think it's interesting one to keep an eye out for when you do see headlines talking about stuff like this, because I feel like they're not really comfortable being as direct as you. Like, we infer what they're saying when they talk about sleaze. When you look at what they're actually saying, they're not being as on the money as they'd like to be.
That's a really good point, because they have to navigate that attack line, don't they? They can't kind of attack the system, which is that political parties take a whole lot of money, and our parliament is lobbied by those that don't have our interests at heart, right? They can't do that. And especially with Keir Starmer, I mean, the guy is like, out of every Labour leader, he's been given the most gifts and freebies out of all of them. He really likes it, doesn't he? I mean, there was one instance. He loves a freebie. There was one instance, though, I don't think it was particularly him, but Labour were talking about doing sort of a tax increase on tech companies, right? And then one of the shadow cabinet members had a meeting with Google. And then the next day, just suddenly dropped that policy.
This is why he can call himself. This is why he can claim to call himself a socialist when he does on that odd occasion, because he can say, "Well, I love freebies, right? That's socialism, isn't it? Freebies."
Yeah. Why is he getting all the socialism?
Yeah. I think though as well that point you just made, Sneakcret, as well. I think
pissed off.
Going back to the adults in the room thing, there kind of is a degree of like that's. I don't want to say.
You're going to try and bring it back around.
Are you trying? Well, no, trying to say it again.
But it's that thing of as much as I hate it and as much as it annoys me and as much as I disagree with it and want it to stop, there is an element of, or I think there might be an element of that's just politics, right? In politics, unfortunately there is always this element of sleaze. There's always this element of here's a big donation, make sure I get
exactly.
There shouldn't be.
This is the whole. This is
but
big
it's
problem.
But it's interesting because Labour also campaigned on that as well. They said we want to clean up politics.
Well, yeah,
we want to do things differently. So
we work with the good companies, not the bad companies. It's neoliberal. This is the issue. Like, it's so frustrating because you see it on like a day-to-day level in terms of like the general public have these feelings about like issues like immigration, and they'll be like, the immigrants are the problem, and then you'll say, well, no, maybe the private companies that are making all the money off asylum housing are the problem. They'll be like, yeah, but we're never going to fix that. And then with this, now it's like, here's something like, well, my hands are tied. I have to take all this money from all these corporate firms. He had plenty of funding. When Jeremy Corbyn got ousted, he lost like hundreds of thousands of party memberships and then had to turn to, he's like, oh, I've had to do capitalism. My hands are tied. That's just the rules of the game.
It's really funny because if you're taking money from individual donations or individual donors, small donors, members, that's student politics, right? That's hard left politics. If you're taking hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions from billionaire donors, well, that's the adults back in the room, right? And you've got former Tory donors, former Liz Truss supporters, for God's sakes, jumping ship to the Labour Party. I
forgot about Liz Truss.
Was it Cordwell? I forgot his first. John Cordwell. He founded Phones for You. Billionaire, and he joined the Labour Party, or he donated to the Labour Party, said Keir Starmer represents commercial capitalism and my commercial capitalist interest. He literally said the quiet part out loud on TV.
He had the CEO of Iceland in his manifesto. He had the CEO of Iceland being like, I think that Labour are going to be great for my workers. And then like you Google Iceland workers and it's like strikes. I personally think he's going to be great. It's paternalism. It is the adults in the room because it's paternalism, but that's part of white supremacy. But that's a whole separate. As I did that, I've gone on a tangent.
Yeah, but it's also adults in the room, because it's we've gone back to it feels like we've gone back to like David Cameron's in many ways, even with like whether it's the austerity.
I personally think that Keir Starmer's to the right of David Cameron.
Do you think?
And that's people think
on trans issues they are. Trans issues they are.
Right, but if you were to get their politics holistically, right, on the economy, I don't think they're very different at all. Especially Rachel. I mean, George Osborne literally said, "Oh, when I heard Rachel Reeves's budget, it was like a mini-me." So he's admitting there that Rachel Reeves is basically George Osborne, and you factor that in, and then when it comes to social issues, they're actually to the right of David Cameron. So when you holistically put their politics together, I think, Starmer is to the right of David Cameron.
So are you saying you want to see David Cameron Prime Minister again?
Yes,
this just
absolutely.
Exclusive.
Leftist Curtis Daly claims, I love David Cameron. And I hate universal.
I love David Cameron.
And I hate UBI,
Oh, no, that's the liberal trick, isn't it? When it's like, oh, David Cameron sucks. Then 5 years later, like, oh, he wasn't too bad, actually, wasn't he? Same with Theresa May. Oh, I guess she isn't that bad, even though she was the architect of the hostile environment. So, you call me what you want.
I'll retract the headline. I'll take it back.
I mean, being called a liberal is like the most offensive thing.
I know, but I feel like a liberal every time I talk to you because I've said those things myself before. Like, oh yeah, Theresa May.
Everybody's got a pass.
I used to have dreams about Theresa May. That's a whole other bloody thing.
Christ, I don't want to know about that.
What? No,
nothing. I'd sit down with her over a coffee. I'd sit down with her over a coffee and absolutely press her about a Brexit policy. But I was, bear in mind, at this point in time, I was glued to BBC Parliament like daily because it was when all of Parliament was at a complete standstill.
Oh God, was that at brunch then? Because you sound like an FBPE guy. I sat down with a coffee and I told her to cut it out.
You dreamt that you gave her a really good talking to, and she was like, "You're right."
That was the dreams, but she was like, yes, you're right, and actually she told me that she was doing it deliberately. She was deliberately making a mess of Brexit to try and prevent it from happening, is what she told me in the dreams.
She told me. It's crazy for a dream. These were simpler times, though. This was way back. This was before everything went as insane. At least Oh, the neoliberal dream.
This was after the go home vans and all the terrible shit she did as Home Secretary.
Oh,
So, let's not forget that.
and you
But,
didn't raise that in the dream conversation?
Listen,
Definitely.
you can't
caught
make
yourself
moral
left
judgment
being,
you
about
didn't
my
even bring it
behaviour
up in a dream.
Sneakcret, okay?
Interesting that you didn't
My
prioritise
focus at the
that.
time, was Brexit, okay? That was where my mind was. That's where the dreams went. Listen, let's move on. What's the next topic?
Yeah, I don't want to do a deep dive in your dreams, especially with Theresa May.
I do. We'll do that later.
Yeah, that backstage, Sneakret's going to ask all the questions.
Mhm.
Well,
and
listen,
by the way,
I've been told by sources that I won't name that some of the things that she told me in these dreams are apparently what was actually going on inside Number 10 by people who would know. So, maybe there's more to it.
Did you see it on BBC Parliament and then have a dream about it?
No, I didn't.
So you actually had the information beforehand. You forgot you learned that information, had it in your dream, and now you're pretending you're psychic.
I'm not
Your
pretending
dream.
I'm psychic. I'm just saying that
He's telling you
listen,
he's
listen.
psychic.
People don't want to watch this. What's the next?
Sorry.
Okay, well,
We've lost 3 viewers.
we've lost 3 viewers because we're talking about Theresa May. I'm excited to say that Turn Left has significantly grown this year. And with that, we've managed to produce far more ambitious content, interviewing high-profile people. We did a 12-hour live election show. There are multiple people behind Turn Left, but we are still working around our full-time work. But we would love it if this was our full-time. It means we could dedicate so much more and to bring even more ambitious content. So if you've been here from the beginning, or you've only recently become a viewer, if you like what we do, then you can help us out. Please like and share this video. Make sure you drop a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your feedback. And we desperately need more independent media. If you want to see a socialist media alternative thrive, then you could be part of that. So if you can support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month, or any one-off donation. We can use that money to upgrade our equipment, to rent out a proper studio, and to start paying ourselves. This is only the beginning. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Patreon.com, Turn Left Media. Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you, Turn Left.